After Luo Feng's breakthrough to godly king was confirmed, intelligence agencies such as Flame Wind Pavilion and Thunderclap Commerce quickly verified the news and spread it across the land of origin. At Po Lu Mountain, Po Lu godly king, who was cultivating inside a vast bath-like chamber in his primordial bloodline true form, received the information. His body, originally a white-scaled sacred creature with faint golden light, transformed into humanoid form as he reacted. He acknowledged that Luo he had indeed become a godly king in an extremely short time. What shocked him most was not only the breakthrough, but the fact that Luo Feng had reached an invincible level within the first realm godly king without relying on external treasures or forces. Po Lu admitted this level of natural talent was terrifying even among top existences of the land of origin. He reflected that true top-tier powerhouses understood how rare such talent was, which was why both ancient countries placed extreme importance on such individuals. He compared Luo Feng to figures like godly King Jiayan in the Thunder ancient country, who were heavily utilized due to their stability and rationality in governance roles. He also explained that in both ancient countries, cultivation of the primordial bloodline had strict limitations. Imperial clan members often lacked suitability, and even many godly kings could not safely cultivate high-tier bloodlines without risking loss of control or drastic personality changes. Only lower-tier bloodlines were commonly exchanged by guest elders or idle godly kings through merit systems. Po Lu godly king also reflected on his own path. He had relied on his master's guidance to cultivate the primordial bloodline to reach invincibility in the first realm godly king. Yet even so, he felt far inferior to Luo Feng. He expressed unwillingness but also resignation, noting that breaking through to the second realm godly king remained extremely difficult even with his understanding of the rules embedded in the bloodline. After this thought, he returned to his primordial bloodline form and continued deep cultivation. In the Thunder ancient country, Zuoshan City, Mountain Sitting Guest was quietly cultivating. After transcending from the primal chaos realm, he had chosen a low-profile path, focusing entirely on understanding the primordial bloodline rather than rushing into godly king advancement. With his spiritual will already at the second realm godly king level, his comprehension of the bloodline was smooth and stable, allowing him to maintain absolute rationality during cultivation as flames circulated around his body. Unlike many others, he was cultivating a relatively ordinary primordial bloodline obtained by idle godly kings. More powerful bloodlines capable of reaching emperor or monarch levels were strictly controlled by the ancient countries and required immense merit points, while high-risk versions often caused instability or loss of control. Even monarch-level figures like the monarch of Yu Kingdom and master of Shi Kingdom only had access to standard bloodlines, ensuring stability but limiting ultimate potential. In contrast, imperial clan members who cultivated stronger bloodlines often experienced personality shifts or even loss of control. While cultivating, Mountain Sitting Guest received intelligence regarding Luo Feng, which he had subscribed to long-term. Upon reading that Luo Feng had broken through to godly king, he reacted with satisfaction and excitement. He noted that Luo Feng had advanced to this stage in just over a century since entering the land of origin. He recalled his earlier despair after entering the universe ocean, where hopes of revenge seemed nearly impossible. Even attempts to enslave sector beasts or train disciples had appeared uncertain. However, Luo Feng's continuous breakthroughs, first mastering the Lai Yuan technique, then passing the Yuan test, then becoming a true god with an unprecedented small universe, had steadily restored his confidence. Now, Mountain Sitting Guest believed Luo Feng had already surpassed all cultivators of the same level. And in terms of strength, only the Emperor of Tiankun among the three Shi Kingdom rulers remained stronger. This realization greatly boosted his morale, and his spiritual will and fighting spirit surged further. Still, he understood that annihilating the three Shi Kingdom rulers remained far away. So he continued to endure and wait. In Shi Kingdom's royal capital, inside the palace, the Emperor of Tiankun sat in the main seat while discussing strategy with his subordinates. Wushang Ancestor reported that border preparations for invading Yu Kingdom were complete and that they could launch at any time. However, he also warned that Luo he had now become a godly king, which angered him due to past losses caused by Luo Feng's interference. The Emperor of Tiankun responded calmly and dismissively, stating that Luo Feng's breakthrough did not affect the overall situation. However, Ku Feng Godly King pointed out that Luo Feng would likely soon reach invincibility in the First Realm Godly King, making him extremely dangerous if he intervened directly, as even they might be unable to stop him. Despite this, the Emperor of Tiankun remained confident. He and his allies agreed that if Luo Feng did not interfere, they would ignore him, but if he intervened, they would make him pay a price. He also specifically ordered that during the invasion, all forces must avoid Huyang City and the entire Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture. This was both a strategic precaution and a subtle acknowledgement of Luo Feng's influence. He made it clear that even the Flame-Wind Ancient Country's imperial clan would have no grounds to interfere if Luo Feng chose to act, as he considered this already giving face. Following his order, Shi Kingdom's forces launched a full-scale invasion of Yu Kingdom. Multiple border cities fell rapidly, and several Primal Chaos Realm cultivators participated openly, confirming this was a coordinated national operation rather than isolated conflicts. The invasion advanced steadily, but intentionally avoided Huyang City's region. At Huyang City, Deputy City Lords Mo Li Meng and Moyu Hu hurried to meet Luo Feng in the City Lord's mansion. Luo Feng was calmly seated in a high tower, drinking while observing the situation. They reported that Shi Kingdom had launched a full-scale invasion, with border cities collapsing one after another and multiple regions requesting reinforcement from the royal capital. They emphasized that several Primal Chaos Realm experts had openly participated, proving Shi Kingdom's intent was systematic and aggressive. They also explained that Yu Kingdom's response was chaotic because the 5 godly kings had not issued unified orders. As a result, many Primal Chaos Realm cultivators were hesitant, leading to widespread retreats and losses. Mo Li Meng stressed that in wartime, the lack of command structure was the most dangerous factor. Luo Feng analyzed the situation calmly, stating that the monarch of Yu country was currently occupied elsewhere and could not return in time. Therefore, the remaining 4 godly kings were waiting for his directive, causing paralysis in decision-making. He concluded that Shi Kingdom was deliberately applying pressure to force the monarch into making a critical choice rather than launching an immediate decapitation strike. Meanwhile, in Yu Kingdom's royal capital, the monarch of Yu country sat in a silent hall, surrounded by 4 godly kings. Reports confirmed that 32 major cities had already fallen and 7 primal chaos prefectures were lost. The enemy advance continued steadily. A black-robed horned godly king explained that Shi Kingdom's objective was to force the monarch to abandon his true body in Tianhe. The monarch remained conflicted and unwilling. His true body was far stronger and better suited to Tianhe's environment, where he was competing for resources. Abandoning it would mean losing his greatest advantage. However, staying passive risked losing his kingdom and all associated power structures. One of the godly kings suggested seeking Luo Feng's assistance. They emphasized that Luo Feng had already reached overlord-level strength without external assistance and was a direct disciple of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country's emperor. His presence could significantly alter the balance. The others supported this suggestion, noting Yu Kingdom's current lack of top-tier deterrence. The monarch hesitated, doubting whether Luo Feng would join a second-rate nation when he could easily enter an ancient country or even establish his own force. However, recognizing the severity of the situation and lacking better options, he decided to attempt contact. He ordered preparations for a personal visit to Huyang City, bringing his daughter Yushui Tianyu, along with Black Butcher, Suo Zi, and several attendants, to formally meet Luo He and seek his involvement. In the royal palace of Yu Kingdom, the monarch of Yu country prepared to visit Huyang City and unexpectedly brought along 6 attendants, including the master and disciple pair, Black Butcher and Suo Zi. Both were shocked, especially after learning that Luo He had already become a godly king. Black Butcher explained that Luo He had often visited his restaurant, while Suo Zi revealed that Luo He had once saved his tribe and his life. The monarch intentionally brought these old acquaintances along to strengthen his relationship with Luo Feng. As they traveled to Huyang City, the monarch was filled with worry. He knew that his strength was roughly equal to Emperor Tiankun's. But Tiankun had many powerful connections, including close ties with the imperial family of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country. The monarch feared that Luo He, as a direct disciple of an emperor from the Flame-Wind Ancient Country, might also be friendly with Emperor Tiankun. Even so, he decided to make the attempt. while also preparing a backup plan of asking godly King Sui Feng to delay Tiankun for one era if necessary. Upon arriving at the city lord's mansion, the monarch sent a message to Luo Feng, who personally came out to welcome him. Yu Shui Tianyu, Black Butcher, and Suo Zi were all surprised to see the familiar yet somehow different Luo Feng, whose aura had become even more ordinary after becoming a godly king. The monarch and Luo Feng entered the mansion to talk privately, while the attendants stayed behind and wandered around Huyang City. Inside the mansion, the monarch praised Luo Feng's incredible progress, noting that his physical body had already reached the level of a second-realm godly king. Luo Feng humbly replied that his achievements were partly due to the monarch's help. He explained that the void proliferation mother tree leaf, which the monarch had once sent through Yu Shui Tianyu, had played an extremely important role in his cultivation, even though the monarch considered it an insignificant gift. The monarch then explained the dire situation of Yu Kingdom, stating that although Shi Kingdom did not dare destroy him or his clan completely, it continued to seize Yu Kingdom's territories, driving away its godly kings and weakening the resources of the Yu Shui clan, which would eventually cause internal collapse. Therefore, the monarch sincerely asked for Luo Feng's help, proposing two options. Either Luo Feng could officially join Yu Kingdom as one of its godly kings and receive generous rewards, or he could simply be hired to help resist Shi Kingdom in exchange for 20 primal chaos prefectures or treasures worth 100 million merit points. Though he admitted these rewards might still be insufficient against Emperor Tiankun. To the monarch's surprise, Luo Feng agreed immediately, refusing to join Yu Kingdom and instead requesting only 10 primal chaos prefectures in exchange for helping resist Shi Kingdom, explaining that he was willing to lower his demands because of the favor from the void mother tree leaf. Luo Feng then selected 10 border primal chaos prefectures near Huyang City that were suffering the most from Shi Kingdom's invasion and also requested that Zhujiang primal chaos prefecture be included because the Marquis of Zhujiang was his friend and deserved a suitable fief. Deeply moved, the monarch promised to arrange everything properly and vowed to remember this great favor. The monarch of Yu country asked Luo He when he could take action against the Shi Kingdom invasion. Luo Feng responded calmly that he could act whenever needed. The monarch was pleased by his decisiveness, as he understood that once Luo Feng intervened, he would directly face the full pressure of Shi Kingdom, especially Emperor Tiankun, so preparation was normally required. The monarch then requested one day before Luo Feng acted, explaining that the 10 primal chaos prefectures along the border, currently held by various vassal lords, needed to be quickly reclaimed and reorganized. These territories near Huyang City were in chaos due to the war, and if Luo Feng acted first, reclaiming them later would become complicated as the feudal lords would raise conditions or refuse cooperation. After returning, the monarch immediately contacted multiple primal chaos realm lords. For Zhujiang primal chaos prefecture, the Marquis was offered a direct exchange for a larger, more resource-rich prefecture in the hinterland of Yu Kingdom. The Marquis agreed, though he emphasized that he could not transfer control of Huyang City, which belonged to godly King Luo He. The monarch acknowledged this and confirmed it was also Luo Feng's intention. For other prefectures, the monarch offered a structured choice: either accept compensation of 300 billion cosmic sand plus a large city in the hinterland of Yu Kingdom, or leave Yu Kingdom entirely and forfeit those benefits. Each primal chaos realm lord carefully weighed the decision, as remaining meant continued obligation to Yu Kingdom but also stable resource supply, territory management, and clan support, while leaving meant immediate freedom but loss of institutional backing and long-term security. In Zhu Yang's case, the exchange was ultimately more favorable, as the replacement prefecture was larger and richer in resources than his original domain. For the other prefectures, 6 lords chose to accept compensation, preferring 300 billion cosmic sand and a large city as their guaranteed cultivation resources and clan foundation, while 3 lords chose to leave Yu Kingdom entirely, as they judged Shi Kingdom to have stronger momentum and believed Yu Kingdom's long-term situation was unfavorable. They preferred to sever ties early and preserve their remaining strength and autonomy. These departing lords had already seen their territories partially or completely occupied by Shi Kingdom forces, and relocating their clans became the only viable option. The monarch did not obstruct their departure, as these withdrawal conditions had been clearly established when they originally joined Yu Kingdom. and godly kings would not easily violate such publicly agreed terms. During this process, the Marquis of Zhujiang also carefully assessed the situation. He noted that his Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture had been spared from Shi Kingdom's invasion not due to his own strength, but because of godly King Luo He's presence and deterrence. He also considered intelligence reports suggesting that Luo He might already possess overlord-level combat strength after becoming a godly king. Though such claims remained unverified rumors, this uncertainty left him uneasy, as the survival of his territory now depended less on his own ability and more on the stance of Luo Feng and the larger conflict between Yu Kingdom and Shi Kingdom. After all 10 primal chaos prefectures were successfully reclaimed or reorganized through exchanges and withdrawals, the monarch of Yu country contacted Luo Feng again through causal communication and informed him that everything had been arranged. Luo Feng, seated cross-legged atop the tower of the city lord's mansion in Huyang City, opened his eyes and acknowledged the message, preparing himself to face Emperor Tiankun directly. He also treated this impending confrontation as an opportunity to test the precise limits of Tiankun's strength, as he had already anticipated such a battle when agreeing to the monarch's proposal. Meanwhile, Shi Kingdom continued its large-scale invasion along the border between the two kingdoms, advancing through multiple primal chaos prefectures. In Fujian Primal Chaos Prefecture, Fujian City was under extreme pressure as a massive allied army of Shi Kingdom descended upon it. Supported by 3 terrifying primal chaos realm beings. One figure was gigantic like a mountain, even larger than the city itself, and his aura alone generated violent storms that shook the battlefield. Another was slightly smaller but still comparable to the city walls, surrounded by thunder and lightning, and the third, though the smallest, radiated a blazing red light that covered the sky, making him the most oppressive presence among them. The 3 figures stood outside Fujian City and mocked the defenders, laughing at Marquis Fujian and questioning whether he truly believed he could resist their combined forces alone, their voices shaking the entire city and breaking the morale of its defenders. Inside the Marquis mansion, Fujian Marquis stood in silence, feeling both anger and helplessness, as his Fujian Primal Chaos Prefecture was not among those reclaimed by Luo Feng and he was still unwilling to abandon the territory he had governed for a long time. He also lamented that the monarch had not issued any direct command and the 4 godly kings remained silent, leaving him without reinforcement. He eventually concluded that resistance was futile. At this moment, an abrupt change occurred. An invisible power of the world suddenly spread across the entire region. Fujian Marquis was shocked, and even the 3 primal chaos realm beings from Shi Kingdom immediately changed expression, as this force was overwhelming, dominant, and suffocating, instantly suppressing everything within its range. The sky darkened, and the entire battlefield, stretching across Fujian City and extending to an enormous region covering 12 primal chaos prefectures, was enveloped in this world power. Shi Kingdom's invasion force, including 35 primal chaos realm beings, was simultaneously trapped within this vast suppression field. Only primal chaos realm cultivators could perceive the true structure of what was happening. And they saw an immense, boundless face forming in the sky. This face belonged to Luo Feng, and it was so enormous that it exceeded the perceptual limits of ordinary eternal true gods, extending across all 12 primal chaos prefectures and even visible in surrounding Shi Kingdom territories. The sheer presence of this face caused deep fear in all primal chaos realm beings who saw it. The gigantic face spoke with a calm and indifferent voice, declaring, "I am Luo He." He stated that he was acting at the invitation of the monarch of Yu country to resolve Shi Kingdom's invasion into Yu Kingdom. His voice echoed endlessly across all 12 primal chaos prefectures, like a decree of the heavens itself. Immediately afterward, the power of the world surged violently, and all invading Shi Kingdom forces, including the 35 primal chaos realm beings, were forcibly swept out of the occupied cities and thrown into the wilderness outside. The suppression was absolute and irresistible, leaving no room for resistance or negotiation. Finally, Luo Feng issued an ultimatum. All Shi Kingdom forces invading Yu Kingdom must withdraw within 1 day. If they failed to do so, they would be annihilated completely and would never be allowed to leave. After being suppressed by Luo Feng's power of the world, the troops of Shi Kingdom had fallen into panic and were completely unable to resist. However, when they heard Luo Feng's voice, they were greatly relieved. Both the eternal true gods and primal chaos realm cultivators felt grateful that Luo Feng did not vent his anger on the weak. In wars between nations, many godly kings would slaughter entire cities or annihilate weaker cultivators without mercy. But Luo Feng spared them and even gave them 1 day to withdraw from Yu Kingdom. Realizing the conflict had escalated beyond their level, the cultivators of Shi Kingdom immediately began retreating. Luo Feng's power of the world then expanded across 12 primal chaos prefectures, causing a massive shock throughout the land of origin. The godly kings of the Flamewind ancient country were astonished that Luo Feng had reached the invincible level of the first realm of a godly king immediately after his breakthrough. In history, only 3 beings had achieved such a feat so quickly: the earth god Cain, Emperor Qing, and now Luo He. Recognizing his terrifying potential, they preferred to befriend him rather than make him an enemy. The godly kings of the Thunder ancient country also noticed Luo Feng but remained unconcerned. They believed that without the support of an imperial clan, Luo Feng would at best become another earth god Cain. Even so, his talent was enough to earn their attention. Elsewhere, a mysterious expert from the Two Realms Palace smiled upon seeing Luo Feng's growth, believing that he would eventually feel the pressure of the 2 great imperial clans. In the Shadow Sky Realm, its lord was delighted by Luo Feng's progress, although he considered Luo Feng still too weak to interfere in the conflicts of true overlords. He admired the fact that Luo Feng had already reached the threshold of an overlord-level existence. Inside the royal palace of Shi Kingdom, the 4 godly kings were shocked and pressured by Luo Feng's display of power, which proved that he had reached the overlord level. Worried about becoming a laughingstock if they retreated, they sought Emperor Tiankun's decision. The emperor calmly stated that the war was part of a larger plan devised by him and several powerful allies, and that Luo He alone could not stop it. To avoid direct conflict, Emperor Tiankun sent the Skull Peak godly Cain, who specialized in clone techniques, to negotiate with Luo Feng. Skull Peak warned Luo Feng that the war was backed not only by Emperor Tiankun but also by several Second Realm godly kings and urged him to withdraw. He promised that Shi Kingdom would not pursue the matter and could still remain friends with Luo Feng. Luo Feng, however, refused. He declared that the monarch of Yushui was his good friend and that he would never break his promise or betray that friendship. He demanded that all Shi Kingdom troops withdraw and stated that Yu Kingdom would not pursue the invasion if they did so. When Skull Peak repeatedly warned him of the severe consequences of standing alone against several powerful godly kings, Luo Feng firmly replied that he had already promised to protect Yu Kingdom and would see it through. He also warned Emperor Tiankun that if he chose to act, he too would pay a heavy price. To demonstrate his determination, Luo Feng instantly used the power of the world to crush Skull Peak godly king's avatar into dust. This act clearly showed his uncompromising attitude. Watching the entire exchange from the capital, Emperor Tiankun's expression turned icy. Furious that a newly advanced First Realm godly king dared to reject his goodwill and challenge him, he declared that Luo Feng would soon learn the price of offending him. With that, Emperor Tiankun immediately disappeared, preparing to take action personally. Luo Feng's power of the world expanded across 12 primal chaos prefectures, forming a vast suppression domain. When the Emperor of Tiankun attempted to intrude into this range, Luo Feng immediately detected the movement and instinctively used the domain's force to repel and compress him outward. Under this pressure, the Emperor of Tiankun was forced to reveal his true form. The Emperor's true body was an incomparably gigantic primordial creature. It had wings stretching to around 300 trillion kilometers, a body tens of trillions of kilometers thick, blood-red eyes filled with killing intent, and a massive mouth occupying 1/3 of its entire form. Its body was covered in dense scale armor and a long tail that stretched across the heavens. Even in its minimum size, it already felt as though it could overwhelm the sky itself. Luo Feng immediately recognized that this was a primordial bloodline life form, one with extremely high evolutionary potential and the ability to break free from restrictive worlds. As a second realm godly king, the Emperor of Tiankun had already developed this bloodline to an extremely deep level, giving him physical power comparable in essence to top overlords. The confrontation quickly drew the attention of countless ancient beings across the land of origin. From distant cave mansions, powerful figures observed the battle. while weaker experts approached the borders of Shi Kingdom and Yu country to witness it firsthand. Many judged that Luo Feng was still newly risen to overlord level and might be at a disadvantage against an experienced second-realm godly king like the Emperor of Tiankun. Even the mountain-sitting guest, who was observing from afar, believed Luo Feng had acted too hastily, though he did not think Luo Feng would be in mortal danger. The Emperor of Tiankun struck first. He opened his enormous mouth and unleashed the annihilation wind, a destructive storm mixed with great currents that swept through heaven and earth. The technique originated from his mastery of the origin Tao of matter combined with his primordial bloodline, giving it powerful corrosive and annihilating properties. Luo Feng responded by enlarging his world life form and stabilizing his stance between heaven and earth. His silver robe expanded outward into a vast canopy, actively intercepting the black winds. The annihilation wind continuously tore through the silver canopy, creating large holes and eroding its structure. However, Luo Feng's robe was not a static defense. It regenerated repeatedly from nothingness due to the endless vitality of the great Tao of life origin. Each time it was destroyed, it reformed and continued to block the attack. After a prolonged clash, the annihilation wind gradually lost its momentum and was fully exhausted. Although the robe appeared heavily damaged, Luo Feng himself remained intact. Seeing this, the Emperor of Tiankun realized that his ordinary technique was insufficient. He then used his true killing move, the Great Extinction Golden Light. This technique condensed his primordial bloodline power into a concentrated golden beam capable of destroying matter at its fundamental level, posing a real threat even to emperors and monarch-level existences. The golden light struck Luo Feng almost instantly, piercing his defenses and entering his world life form. It violently disrupted and annihilated the internal structure of his body, causing golden patterns to spread across his massive silver form. The destruction directly targeted the foundational matter of his life form, repeatedly erasing it while Luo Feng simultaneously regenerated it through his life origin power. The Emperor of Tiankun soon realized through combat feedback that Luo Feng's energy reserves were extremely vast. Even his strongest attack could only erase roughly 1% of Luo Feng's body per strike. Given his limits, he could only release around 10 such attacks at full cost, making complete annihilation impossible. He also recognized that Luo Feng's body combined both life origin Tao and matter origin Tao mysteries, making it exceptionally resistant to destruction. With direct suppression failing, the Emperor of Tiankun shifted strategy. He mocked Luo Feng and moved toward Huyang City, intending to destroy it to force Luo Feng into a disadvantageous position. He believed Luo Feng's massive world life form was clumsy and lacked precision, making it difficult to respond quickly to external threats. However, Luo Feng immediately reacted. In a single step, he merged with the world and reappeared directly in front of the Emperor of Tiankun, intercepting him mid-motion. Despite still being eroded by residual golden light, Luo Feng raised his right hand and concentrated the full essence of his world life form into a single strike. This strike, known as life cutting, was a highly refined killing technique that fused the mysteries of life and death, transforming his hand into a blade of absolute severance. The attack appeared almost unreal, silent, instantaneous, and devoid of visible trajectory, yet it cut directly into the Emperor of Tiankun's massive body. The Emperor of Tiankun was shocked that such a gigantic life form could still execute such a precise and condensed technique. As Luo Feng's attack landed, the Great Extinction golden light on his body gradually weakened, while Luo Feng calmly stood at a distance and asked for the result of his strike. Emperor Tiankun was injured by Luo Feng's blade, with a section of his scale armor and flesh turning gray, decaying, and turning to ash, though the damage quickly regenerated due to his massive world beast-like body. He was shocked not by the injury itself, but by Luo Feng's extraordinary control over such a gigantic world life-form body, which normally required external assistance or overwhelming soul power. He could not understand how Luo Feng could execute such refined, instantaneous movements at such scale. Emperor Tiankun concluded that Luo Feng had likely mastered a third great Tao beyond the great Tao of life origin and the origin Tao of matter. Because the blade strike behaved in a way that seemed unreal, moving through darkness as if it did not exist in reality, striking before it could be perceived or blocked. Even Emperor Tiankun, with his vast experience, could not identify whether it was related to causality, destruction, or another unknown path. He realized Luo Feng was far more dangerous than expected. Across the land of origin, many powerful ancient beings were equally shocked. They found it unbelievable that a cultivator could control such a massive body without external force and still maintain such precision. Some speculated Luo Feng's spiritual will had surpassed the ultimate realm of godly king. Others suspected a highly developed soul cultivation path, and some even believed he might be a reincarnated ancient expert whose true realm far exceeded his apparent level. However, mountain-sitting guests strongly rejected the reincarnation theory. He confirmed Luo Feng had grown entirely on his own, with a small universe unprecedented in history. He emphasized that Luo Feng had only been in the land of origin for just over a century, yet had already reached a level capable of confronting overlord-tier beings. Po Lu, godly king, despite being invincible in the first realm, was deeply impressed and considered building a closer relationship with Luo Feng after witnessing this battle. Emperor Tiankun continued pressing the issue, asking if Luo Feng was a reincarnated old monster. Luo Feng denied it. Emperor Tiankun, however, refused to believe him and decided to force out his true background. He then unleashed his lethal technique, sky-reaching wings, flapping his enormous wings with destructive force that caused a vast region of space, matter, plants, energy, and even primal chaos currents to be completely annihilated. The attack engulfed Luo Feng, forcing a direct confrontation. Luo Feng resisted with his arms, but the force was overwhelming. Even with his world lifeform's regeneration, his internal world suffered cracks, and he was blasted backward more than 10 steps, each step creating enormous crater-like impacts across trillions of kilometers. Luo Feng realized the disparity in raw explosive strength. Emperor Tiankun was dozens of times stronger. However, Luo Feng's advantage lay in vitality and regeneration, allowing him to recover instantly from structural damage. Before he could stabilize, Emperor Tiankun executed another killing move, sky-breaking tail. This attack used the full power of his massive tail, concentrating all physical strength. Combined with material origin Dao techniques and even temporal distortion, the strike was instantaneous and unavoidable, slicing Luo Feng cleanly in half despite prior awareness and defense. Immediately after, Emperor Tiankun activated another technique, World Stomach. His enormous head opened, revealing multiple internal stomach dimensions capable of swallowing vast regions of space. Luo Feng's two halves were pulled into separate stomach spaces, where corrosive energy began eroding him continuously. Inside, Luo Feng found himself trapped in blood-red corrosive worlds. His two separated bodies quickly transformed into smaller avatars to reduce strain, each losing power significantly. The stomach's erosion constantly damaged him, but his life force and recovery speed allowed continuous regeneration, resulting in a cycle of destruction and repair. Emperor Tiankun mocked him, claiming the stomach's confinement made escape impossible. Luo Feng countered that its erosion was too weak and could not outpace his regeneration. He even sarcastically suggested he could live there permanently. Emperor Tiankun replied that his world's stomach had enough capacity to imprison Luo Feng indefinitely. However, Luo Feng decided to abandon those trapped avatars. The two smaller bodies activated his ultimate self-destruction technique, Red Sky Burst. Secret runes erupted across their bodies, and both avatars exploded simultaneously, releasing the stored energy of a fraction of a world lifeform's true body in a concentrated destructive blast. The explosion tore through the internal stomach dimension, creating massive ruptures and severely damaging Emperor Tiankun's body from within. Externally, his massive form shuddered, and cracks spread across his scales. This was the heaviest injury he had sustained so far in the battle, forcing him to reconsider further attempts to swallow Luo Feng. Emperor Tiankun realized that Luo Feng's body was too costly to consume, suspecting it might contain hidden secrets or extraordinary accumulation of energy that made it extremely valuable. At that moment, Luo Feng's voice echoed across heaven and earth. Emperor Tiankun turned toward Huyang City and was shocked to see 10 figures rising into the sky, 10 silver-robed Luo Fengs, each emitting an aura comparable to the previous one. Luo Feng declared that a single avatar was insufficient to contend with Emperor Tiankun and that these 10 together represented his true limit in this battle. The sudden appearance of 10 equally powerful avatars stunned all observers, including even Luo Feng's allies. Mountain-sitting guest and the monarch of Yu country. Who had not anticipated such a development?